Well, good morning. Welcome back to GP Outdoors in Central Ontario. So you bought a tractor, maybe a subcompact or a compact, maybe a utility or larger. Do you have the right insurance for that tractor and what you're doing with that tractor?
Are you sure? Really sure?
So if you've got 5 minutes for me, I put together 6 questions because I've spent a considerable amount of time in the last week or so looking into my own insurance. Because when I got this compact tractor, I actually did make sure I had insurance for it. But now that I've realized the things I'm actually doing with this tractor, changed the game a little bit. Grab a coffee, let's stick around together for 5 minutes. Cheers. So first things first, just a couple of things before we get to the 6 questions. Number one, I'm in Ontario, Canada, and as you probably imagine, there are dozens, if not more, insurance companies here, let alone across Canada or the US or other countries. And for as many different insurance companies, there's probably 3 or 4 times as many different types of policies and coverages or additional coverages or optional benefits that you can get. So depending on where you live, the rules are probably a little different, or the standards or the way things are done. So today, we're just talking about me here in Ontario. Let's talk about general coverage. So at least here, generally you've got life insurance, which is a type of insurance you can get. And generally a basic life insurance policy covers you in the event of death, pays out. But it's not going to cover you for disability, short or long-term injury, dismemberment, those types of things, loss of income, health or medical bills that have come with that. Those are not covered unless you've purchased optional additional insurance within that life insurance policy to cover those types of scenarios or those cases. Otherwise, your base policy covers you in the event of fatality. Then for your home or your contents, your dwelling, you've got things called homeowner insurance. And under your homeowner's insurance, generally you'd have a blanket coverage of whatever your contents or things you own on your property. Very important, we'll get back to that, are covered up to a certain maximum. So for example, theft, fire, damage to your couch, your dining room table, your lawnmower, things that you own on your property. And often you'll usually have a minimum third-party liability. And what that generally means is that whether it's $1 million coverage or whatever that coverage is, if something happens to a third party, i.e. not you or one of your family members, but somebody other than one of your family members or yourself, there's usually some coverage in there in the event that somebody comes on your property or goes into your house and hurts themselves. Why is this important? Let me explain. Under your homeowner's insurance, at least here, in that big thick or that big novel they gave you, which was your policy when you got it years ago, there's a whole bunch of limits and exclusions in that policy. So there's a general blanket coverage for different items up to a certain size or dollar value. And in the case of a tractor or a piece of machinery, you'll find that there's a maximum horsepower and or value of that tractor that would be covered under your policy. And in the event your subcompact or compact tractor exceeds that horsepower limit, there is in fact 0 coverage on anything you do to or with this tractor. That's important. Second thing is that your homeowner's policy generally covers you or your tractor or different activities that occur on your property, not off your property, unless you have additional or added coverage that includes things that occur when you leave your property. Also very important. So if you have an item, such as a tractor, that exceeds your horsepower threshold or maximums or dollar value, you actually have to call your insurance company and add additional insurance for them to schedule that tractor onto your policy. Or some people call it a rider on your policy. Basically, you pay a little more and they include the tractor now in much of your coverage, or at least some of your coverage. And if you don't do that, you have absolutely no coverage when you use this tractor, whether it's damage, theft, fire, or incident or injury. And remember, this video or these questions are people like average Joes like myself, somebody that's got property, whether it's 2 acres or 200 acres, you're not farming it, you're not using it for agricultural purposes, you've got a property and you've decided to buy a compact tractor or a subcompact or utility or whatever to help maintain your property. That's who I'm talking to. 6 questions. Let's do this. You picked up your tractor, you are on your property with your tractor that you own, you're working in the forest, grappling up logs, you see a slope between trees, you think it's okay, you start to traverse that slope, and you're by yourself, and you accidentally flip the tractor. Tractor flips over, falls on top of you, cuts your arm off. Do you have coverage to pay for your medical bills and your potential long-term disability or dismemberment? Do you have insurance that's going to cover the damage to the tractor that it's rolled over? Get it righted, tow trucks, etc. Question 2. Same scenario. You're on your property with a tractor you own, and your good friend or neighbor, i.e. Guy, comes over to help you out in the forest. You're cutting up trees. Same thing happens. You're in the tractor, you're grappling up logs, Guy's close by, standing by the tractor. You drive, you try to reverse that slope, you flip the tractor over, it flips on you, cuts your arm off, but turns one more time and gets Guy, your neighbor, on your property. He's injured, either temporarily or permanently, or possibly dismembered, or potentially fatally. Your tractor's damaged and you're injured. In that scenario, on your property, very important, with your tractor or your asset that you own, are you covered? Question number 3. You want to be a good neighbor. In fact, you probably are a good neighbor. You've got a tractor or a compact tractor. Your neighbors don't have a tractor. So in the wintertime, you decide that when it snows, it's kind of nice to go down the street and start blowing out everybody else's driveways for them. And you do it because they're good neighbors and you've got a good relationship. So you take the asset that you own, your tractor, and you now leave your property. Remember, you've left your property and you're now on somebody else's property with your tractor. You drive along, something happens where you go onto the slope of the side of their driveway, you flip your tractor over, same thing happens, rolls over, cuts your leg off. Tractor's damaged and you've been dismembered. Do you have coverage? And remember, you've left your property. You're on somebody else's property. And they may or may not have insurance. You don't know. 4th question, same scenario. You leave your property and you go off to your neighbor's property and you start snow blowing or using your snow blower and you're clearing the snow in their driveways. And you're doing it as a favor. You're a good neighbor. While you're on the driveway, either your neighbor or one of their kids comes around the side of the garage as you're coming forward and slips, and unfortunately you catch them with the auger. You've injured either permanently or temporarily or disabled or dismembered that person, which is your neighbor. You've damaged the tractor. Are you covered? And remember, you've taken your asset off your property and you're now on somebody else's property doing work, and you've injured a third person. Fifth question. You call up your neighbor and he needs help. He's down the concession road or down the roadway. And he asks if you can come over and help him out with your tractor. You get on your tractor, you fire it up, you start driving down your driveway. At some point, you turn off your driveway and onto a public road. So you've now left your property with an asset that you own, and you're now on a public road, and you're not on somebody else's property. You're on a public road. As you're driving along, there's a car parked on the side of the road. While you're driving along, you try to steer around the car. Traffic's coming the other way maybe. You don't judge the distance well, and somebody swings the car door open and tries to get out as you're passing it. You hit the person and you hit the car door and rip it off the car. And the person is now temporarily or permanently injured or dismembered or potentially fatally. You've damaged the car and you've damaged your tractor. And you're not on your own property and you're not on somebody else's property. Are you covered? So last question, question number 6. You picked up your compact tractor or your subcompact tractor. You've decided that, maybe to help pay for the tractor or maybe to pay for gas, you do blow out people's driveways or you do work on their property, off your property, and you charge them $10 or $20 or $5 a week to shovel out or to clear out their driveways. You're now charging money for what you do with the tractor. And whether it's $5 or $5,000, you're now using it as a commercial vehicle. Are you covered under any of those 5 scenarios I just mentioned? So there's your 6 questions. As a point of disclosure, I want to let you know that when I did get this tractor 1.5 years ago, I did call the insurance company and I did get it scheduled separately. The difference is that after 1.5 years, I'm doing a lot more things with that tractor than I ever imagined I was going to do. So at the time when I got the insurance and they asked me a bunch of questions, I answered them honestly because at the time, I answered based on what I thought I was going to do with the tractor. Didn't realize how often I was going to be off my property, and I also didn't realize how important that was to your insurance coverage. I also didn't realize the limits on those policies, whether it's my life insurance or my homeowner's insurance, the limits on injury to myself or family members because of the tractor, damage to the tractor depending on whether I'm on or off my property, or injury to others, which also changes depending on where the injury occurs, whether it's on your property or off your property. Interesting points I learned this week. I hope it's been helpful for you folks. Wanted to put a special shout out to one of our longtime subscribers who goes by the initials CM. You've probably noticed he comments regularly, always has a good morning, and he often posts comments about very thought-provoking or interesting pieces of information or helpful pieces of information. I have to apologize to CM because he posted a comment about insurance on that tractor, and I sort of dismissed him. So for that, CM, I apologize, because when I first read his first comment, I immediately thought, nah, I've got insurance, I'm okay, and I answered his comment and I went on. But he was kind enough to post a second, more detailed question about the insurance, and that's what triggered me to think, because I thought to myself, I'm not sure I know the answer to that question, and I better find out. I hope this has been helpful for you folks. Thanks so much for sticking around. If you enjoyed the channel or you like the video, please click subscribe, hit the like button, and if you want to know when I'm posting videos, just click the little bell. Have a wonderful week with your families. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.